Hello and welcome, I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. Explosions shake Jammu as Pakistan launches missiles and drones at Indian military bases in Kashmir and Punjab. Pakistan denies responsibility as the Indian army shoot down the drones. This comes while global powers urge calm amid rising tensions. Chicago-born Robert Prevost becomes Pope Leo XIV, the first American to lead the Catholic Church, cheered on by thousands in St. Peter's Square. A former missionary in Peru, he promises peace as the world watches the 267th pontiff emerge from the balcony. World leaders celebrate Pope Leo XIV's election. Macron calls it historic, Trump says it's a great honour, and Putin hopes for constructive dialogue. From Poland to Canada, leaders praise the new American pontiff's call for peace, dignity and global unity. President Donald Trump demands a 30-day unconditional ceasefire in Ukraine, threatening new sanctions if Russia fails to comply. Ukraine agrees to Washington's plan, but Moscow only offers a 3-day halt to mark World War II's end. US President Donald Trump and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer strike a limited trade deal, keeping US tariffs on British goods but easing duties on UK cars and boosting farm access. It's the first in a series of trade moves. Trump plans to cut America's massive deficit and shake up global commerce. Trump says US-China trade talks kick off this weekend in Switzerland, hinting America's 145% tariffs on Beijing may drop. After months of stalemate, Washington eyes a deal as tensions between the world's top economies start to ease. Moscow launches Victory Day celebrations with 27 world leaders at Red Square. China's Xi, Brazil's Lula da Silva and Venezuela's Maduro are among the honoured guests. The event coincides with Zelensky accusing Russia of violating its own ceasefire proposal amid ongoing conflict. King Charles urges the world to pursue lasting peace, marking 80 years since Nazi Germany's defeat in Europe. After a solemn service at Westminster, he joins veterans and thousands at a tribute concert near Buckingham Palace. Our top story today, according to sources, the Ministry of External Affairs will hold a press conference at 9 a.m. IST, followed by the Indian Army's media briefing at 10 a.m. Later today, Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will chair a high-level meeting with the chiefs of the Army, Navy and the Air Force. Indian Army confirms that Pakistan's armed forces launched multiple attacks using drones and other munitions along the entire western border of the intervening night of May the 8th and 9th. Pakistani troops also carried out numerous ceasefire violations along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. Indian forces effectively repelled the drone attacks and responded strongly to the ceasefire breaches. Speaking to Fox News about Operation Sindoor, US Vice President J.D. Vance said the United States would encourage de-escalation but would not intervene in what he called the conflict, which is none of our business. The United States has urged both New Delhi and Islamabad to avoid further escalation. US State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce expressed long-standing concerns about Pakistan's alleged support for terrorist groups. Last night, Pakistan attempted to deploy swarm drones across several locations along the line of control and international borders. The Indian Army's air defence units neutralised over 50 drones during a massive counter-drone operation in Udhampur, Samba, Jammu and Anknor, among others. The Border Security Force foiled a major infiltration attempt along the international border in Jammu and Kashmir's Samba district late last night. The Press Information Bureau's fact-check unit dismissed a fake video circulated by Pakistani X-handles claiming the destruction of an Indian post. The unit clarified that no 20 Raj battalion exists in the Indian Army and called the video part of a coordinated propaganda campaign aimed at spreading panic. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister has once again urged restraint in the India-Pakistan standoff. Let's listen in.
کاهش تنش هستیم و امیدوار هستیم که طرفین با خویشتن‌داری که خودشون نشون خواهند داد جلوی تنش بیشتر رو بگیرن. منطقه ما به آرامش احتیاج داره برای گسترش همکاری‌های اقتصادی به خصوص بین کشورهای منطقه و امیدوار هستیم که این اتفاق بیفته.
Meanwhile, Pakistan's defense minister claimed that Gulf countries are engaged in de-escalation efforts to ease the India-Pakistan tensions. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
The countries in the Arabian Gulf also, who are close to us, and obviously they have a good relationship with India also, they have also advised that de-escalation should take place immediately. But India is making it, it's almost impossible. Every day there is an incident which raises the bar of conflict in the subcontinent.
Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan expressed concern over escalating tensions between Pakistan and India. He warned against the situation spiraling into an active conflict. Let's take a listen in.
PKK, FETÖ ve DAEŞ'e karşı müşterek mücadelenin Pakistan ile Hindistan arasındaki gerilimin çok sayıda sivilin şehit olduğu füze saldırılarıyla sıcak çatışmaya dönüşmesinden endişe duyuyoruz. Saldırılarda hayatını kaybeden kardeşlerimize Allah'tan rahmet, kardeş Pakistan halkına ve devletine bir kez daha başsağlığı diliyorum.
And we are now joined by Ajay Jindial, correspondent for NewsX World, located in Jammu right now. Ajay, thank you for joining us on location. What are you hearing on the ground right now about the scale of last night's drone attack and also the artillery attacks along the western border and the LOC?
See, it was a horrible and a long night for the people of the Jammu and Kashmir because from line of control to the international border and even in the Jammu city and other part of the Jammu city, people have heard the blasting explosion sound which was taking place whole of the night. At around 8 last late night, Pakistan drones and missiles were fired from across, and that's basically when started reaching the destination where they were basically supposed to hit, and anti-drone system was activated, and that was basically to foil that attempt of Pakistan. What our sources are saying that in Jammu, in Udhampur, in Akhnur, in Nagrota, in Rajouri, and in Punjab, these were the destination vital installation of the defense forces which Pakistan wanted to hit, but it was foiled by the anti-defense system which was activated there. And it was not the standalone. Early in the morning at around 4, once again this attempt was made from across the border by the Pakistani missile and drone, and that was again foiled by the anti-drone system, placed over here on the different location. It seems that Pakistan wanted to target the civilian area and the defense forces because two houses are partially damaged because of the Pakistani shelling last late night inside the Jammu town, and a number of civilians, those who have died because of the Pakistani shelling in Poonch district, that have increased to the 17, and more than 50 people are injured. So how brutal Pakistan can be during this shelling, because they are using the artillery guns and Chinese-made gun which has been provided to Pakistan to target the civilian area on the line of control and inside the hinterland. That is something very serious, and it makes people concerned.
Yes, thank you very much, Ajay. Please stay with us. We have more information for you. India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri has also commented on the escalating conflict between India and Pakistan. Let's listen in to what he said.
I think the first point that you have to keep in mind is the attack of 22nd April in Pahalgam is the original escalation. Pakistan has also claimed that India deliberately attacked religious sites. This is completely false again. I have made it clear that the targets were terrorist infrastructure, terrorist facilities, and locations connected clearly with incidents of cross-border terrorism into India. And it is in fact Pakistan that is misusing religious sites as a cover to in fact radicalize, direct and indoctrinate and train.
Police officers monitored traffic amid a blackout in Jammu city following explosions reported near the airport of this strategic location. Red flares lit up the sky and the sound of artillery and gunfire echoed across Jammu as explosions shook the city's airport in Kashmir. Last night, authorities extended nightly blackouts and imposed curfews across the region. Punjab, Rajasthan and Gujarat to secure borders along Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Security personnel recovered debris of a missile on the outskirts of Amritsar, close to the border with Pakistan. In Pooch, residents suffered heavily from deadly Pakistani artillery fire that damaged multiple religious structures amid intense cross-border exchanges. India has warned that any military action from Pakistan will be met with a very, very firm response. A day after New Delhi launched missile strikes retaliating against an attack it attributed to Islamabad. Let's take a listen in to what Indian External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar had to say about the situation.
Excellency, you are visiting India at a time when we are responding to a particularly barbaric terrorist attack on 22nd April in the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. This attack compelled us to respond on 7th May by striking at cross-border terrorist infrastructure. Our response was targeted and measured. It is not our intention to escalate the situation. However, if there are military attacks on us, there should be no doubt that it will be met with a very, very firm response. As a neighbor and a close partner, it is important that you have a good understanding of the situation.
And we will bring you all further updates on that developing situation. But now over to Europe, where white smoke rose above the Sistine Chapel, signalling a new pope has been elected. The conclave of 133 cardinals has elected Robert Francis Prevost, the 167th pontiff. He will be known as Pope Leo XIV, or as many call him, the Bridge Builder. His name was officially announced by Cardinal Dominique Mambert. Here's how the new pope was announced by Cardinal Dominique Mambert.
Eminentissimum, ac reverendissimum Dominum, Dominum Robertum Franciscum, Sancte Romane Ecclesiae, Cardinalem Prevost. Qui sibi nomen imposuit Leonem XIV.
Crowds flooded St. Peter's Square chanting Viva il Papa, which means long live the Pope. Joy swept across Rome. Pope Leo XIV is the first American pope in history who is born in Chicago and has been a long-time missionary in Peru. In his first speech, he called for peace, dialogue and unity, saying, "To all people, to the whole earth, peace be with you." Let's listen in to Pope Leo XIV.
questo è il primo saluto del Cristo risorto, il buon pastore che ha dato la vita per il gregge di Dio. Anch'io vorrei che questo saluto di pace entrasse nel vostro cuore, raggiungesse le vostre famiglie, a tutte le persone, ovunque siano, a tutti i popoli, a tutta la terra. La pace sia con voi. Aiutateci anche voi, poi gli uni gli altri, a costruire i ponti con il dialogo, con l'incontro, unendoci tutti per essere un solo popolo, sempre in pace.
He honoured the late Pope Francis, speaking warmly in Spanish to the cheering crowd. He gave a heartfelt message to the people of Chiclayo, Peru, where he wants to serve as bishop. Bells rang out across Rome. Here's what the new Pope said.
Se me permiten también una palabra, un saludo a todos aquellos, y en modo particular a mi querida diócesis de Chiclayo en el Perú. Donde un pueblo fiel ha acompañado a su obispo, ha compartido su fe y ha dado tanto para seguir siendo iglesia fiel de Jesucristo.
Smiles, prayers and hope filled the square. The world now looks to Pope Leo XIV to lead 1.4 billion Catholics forward. Staying on the same story, world leaders are reacting to the election of Pope Leo XIV, and messages of support have poured in from across the globe. US President Donald Trump called it a great honour and said he looks forward to meeting the new Pope. Here's what the US President said.
What greater honor could there be? And we were a little bit surprised, very happy. It's just a great, absolutely great honor.
Are you planning to meet the Pope in the near future?
Mr. President,
Have you
They've already called.
They've already called. When is that? Do you have a timing in mind?
Meanwhile, US Vice President J.D. Vance, who is a Catholic, offered prayers for Leo XIV's mission. Former US Presidents Biden, Obama, Bush and other global leaders also extended congratulations. In addition, Ireland's Prime Minister Michael Martin praised the Pope's call for peace, while the UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer called the election momentous. At the same time, Italy's Giorgia Meloni noted his strong message of unity from Ukraine to Brazil, Poland to Israel. Leaders welcomed the Pope's message of dialogue and hope. Meanwhile, Colombia's President Petro called him a symbol for migrants, and from France to Norway and even Russia, nations pledged support. Now the world watches as Pope Leo XIV begins his historic pontificate. Moving on now to Eastern Europe, where Russian President Vladimir Putin welcomed international leaders at the Kremlin on Thursday ahead of Victory Day celebrations. More than 20 foreign heads of state, including China's Xi Jinping and Brazil's Lula da Silva, are expected at the May 9th military parade in Moscow's Red Square. The parade marks 80 years since the defeat of Nazi Germany. Around 27 leaders are set to attend, according to the Kremlin. Originally, 29 were due, but Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev and Laos's President Thongloun Sisoulith cancelled. This show of support comes as Europe continues efforts to isolate Moscow diplomatically. Ukraine, which has stepped up drone strikes on the Russian capital ahead of the parade, condemned the presence of foreign leaders, calling it a sign of backing for Putin's 3-year war on its territory. The gathering also signals Moscow's deepening ties with allies, and even as relations with Washington show signs of cautious re-engagement. Let's take a listen in to what the Russian president had to say.
Прежде всего, сердечно приветствую и благодарю вас, наших надежных друзей и партнеров. Вы приехали в Москву, чтобы разделить с нами радость праздника Победы над нацизмом, почтить память героев, спасших человечество. 9 мая – священная дата для нашего многонационального народа. Дорогие друзья, позвольте предложить тост за поколение победителей, за великую победу, за мир и благополучие, за вас, за наших друзей.
Staying in the same story now, US President Donald Trump is pushing for a 30-day unconditional ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. He warned that Washington and its allies will impose tougher sanctions if the ceasefire is broken. Ukraine has welcomed the proposal, with President Volodymyr Zelenskiy saying Kyiv is ready to begin a 30-day truce starting this minute. In a phone call with President Trump on Thursday, Zelensky also said Ukraine is open to talks with Russia in any format, but only after a full and unconditional ceasefire. Trump said the ceasefire must pave the way to a peace deal and added he's ready to assist negotiations at any moment. Meanwhile, Russia has only proposed a 3-day pause to coincide with this Victory Day celebration. Ukraine has dismissed Moscow's proposal as a farce, accusing Russia of violating its own ceasefire within hours. The Trump-Zelensky call reportedly went very well, lasting about 20 minutes and also touching on a newly ratified minerals deal. We are joined by Ross Feingold, political risk analyst located in Taipei, Taiwan, to discuss this in more detail. Ross, thank you very much for joining us. I want to start with these Victory Day celebrations and the allies that have joined in Moscow today. This includes President Lula da Silva, this includes Nicolas Maduro, 25 other leaders from around the world. And obviously we're missing Xi Jinping, the president of China. What does this say about where Russia stands diplomatically? There's 27 is a lot of world leaders, and there's many powerful world leaders at this gathering in the Red Square. Where does Russia stand diplomatically amid all these Western sanctions?
Over the past 3+ years since Russia invaded Ukraine in February of 2022, there have been a number of countries worldwide, including in places like Africa, the Middle East, and South America, that have not taken sides, and they've retained a dialogue and relations with Russia. They've not joined in international sanctions, and that's just the reality of the geopolitical map at the moment. So it's not a surprise that some of those countries that did not take a side have sent high-level representation to the victory parade in Moscow today.
Yes, and Ross, obviously President Xi Jinping is the guest of honor. He arrives with many people calling China an enabler in this war. Does Beijing recognize any reputational cost if that narrative hardens in the Western world?
They probably made that assessment in Beijing long ago, and they're able to continue with their close relationship with Russia. Obviously, they're a great customer for Russian energy, and they also sell a lot of manufactured goods to Russia that Russia does not manufacture on its own. And the concern of the United States and the Western European countries during this time has been that China might sell lethal technologies or even dual-use technologies to Russia that would help the Russian military prosecute the war in Ukraine. So throughout this period of the war in Ukraine, there's certainly been periodic criticism of China and China's continued engagement, whether politically or economically, with Russia. But it's clear that the Chinese side has said, we're going to live with that criticism and we're not going to end our good relationship with Russia.
Yes, and Ross, obviously we are in the midst of this 3-day ceasefire proposed by Vladimir Putin to mark this 80-year centenary of the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II. Repeated violations, allegations from each side. What is your thoughts going into peace negotiations for a 30-day ceasefire if seemingly they can't keep it together for 3 days?
Even if the two sides do follow a 3-day ceasefire, at the risk of stating the obvious, it's going to be over in 3 days. So I think both sides, both Russia and Ukraine, are posturing for what a 30-day ceasefire might look like. Obviously, up to now, despite threats of potentially walking away from this process by the Trump administration, the Trump administration is still engaged in trying to bring about a 30-day ceasefire. That comes right from the mouth of President Trump. So his team is still working on that. There's still potential, however unlikely that that might occur. And I think Russia and Ukraine are trying to change the facts on the ground going into a 30-day ceasefire. So the coming days are going to be very interesting to watch to see what kind of military action each side takes while these 30-day ceasefire talks continue under the leadership of the United States. Is it going to succeed? We simply don't know at the moment.
Ross, quickly, we are running out of time, but I just want to get your thoughts on where the Trump administration lies currently. Obviously, we've seen Trump's opinions and where he stands in this conflict flap around side to side. Where right now do you think he is?
I think President Trump still at the moment wants to play a role. He wants his team to play a role in a 30-day ceasefire. They haven't walked away yet. They've made that threat, but until President Trump says, we're out of here, we're not going to talk either side into a long-term ceasefire, until that moment comes, it looks like the Trump administration is still engaging both sides.
Ross Feingold, thank you very much for your insight as always. Well, that is all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more international news updates from around the world. Thank you.